Hello everyone, welcome to day number one of the FIDE Grand Prix 2022 in Berlin, Germany. And here in our second game, we will feature Levon Aronian's slam bang game against Hikaru Nakamura in Berlin. This was crazy. It's all fireworks. All right, let's check it out. Levon went for d4, Nakamura d5, c4, takes on c4, e4, b5. All right, Queen's Gambit accepted. Black protects his extra pawn on c4, a4, c6. First four moves for both players are pawns, right? Styles make great fights. Right. And I like these two players in terms of their playing style. This is what we like, yeah. We like to see games like this. Pieces hanging all over the place. A takes b5, c takes b5. All right, first five moves, all pawns. The first minor piece development with knight c3 for Aronian hitting the b5 pawn. Queen b6, of course, for Nakamura, protecting b5. Knight to d5, moving the knight twice in the opening. Moving the queen twice in the opening with queen b7. Oh, sometimes it's hard to understand. Okay, when you play chess, in some games, you gotta break some rules. Yeah, this is actually breaking the principle of chess, right? The basic principle where you develop your pieces as soon as possible. Do not move the same piece twice in the opening. Here, 5 pawn moves, first 5, and then 2 knight moves and 2 queen moves for black. Crazy him. Bishop f4, e5. Wow. Okay. Black sacrifices the pawn in e5 for development, opening his dark square bishop on f8, at the same time blocking the attack on the c7 square. Okay, bishop takes e5, knight into d7, hitting the bishop on e5, and bishop f4, developing the knight with knight gf6, knight c7 check, king d8, takes, an e4 first, an intermediate check, the queen is still attacking that knight on a8, attacking e1, knight e2, capture. All right. Black sacrificed an exchange on a8, but he's relying on this majority with 3-4-1 on the queen side. Queen into d2. This is the first new move. Well, surprisingly, this is the first new move of the game. Yeah. The novelty. In the previous game, it was in the first leg, also in Berlin. Aronian played f3, okay? Played f3 in this position. He played f3 against Linnea Dominguez, also an American, right? This battle of Americans. In our first video, Wesley So was also playing another American, Sam Shankland. So knight e5 here, bishop g5 check, f6, bishop d2, bishop d6, knight g3, queen b8, and king f2. And went on to win that knockout semifinals in Berlin. Leg 1, where Aronian actually lost to Nakamura in the finals. So this is also a sweet revenge for Levon. Okay, let's go back to the game, people. So queen d2 was played here by Levon. The new move, the first new move. Knight e5 for Nakamura, centralized knight, blockade on the d4 pawn. Knight into c3, bishop b4. That was the point of e5 earlier. Now the bishop pins the queen and the king. Also opens up the rook to attack the king on the e file. Bishop e2, rook to e8. Bishop moves back to g3. Knight into f6. Right. Black has better development and movement of his pieces compared to white. Castles. Knight e4. Black has so much space, by the way, with 3 of his pieces, the knight, pawn, and the bishop on the 4th rank. It's in white's territory. Queen c2, bishop f5, developing his last minor piece. Bishop h4 check, f6. Bishop into f3, hitting e4, removing the attacker on c3 with the bishop. Nakamura relies on his 2 central knights on d5 and e4. g5, rook fe1 is just crazy move after crazy move. And here Nakamura, true to his character, played the move knight f4, which was the decisive mistake of the game. It was the turning point. Without his knight f4, Nakamura could have at least, I don't know, it was still crazy and still unclear. If Nakamura played here, instead of knight f4, he could have played knight takes c3. Right? He's attacking that bishop on h4. If the bishop moves back, and there's b4. 3 connected pass pawns. Okay, a bad king on d8, but the pawn on d4 is blocking the d file. So it's safe at the moment. The knight also on c3 protects the important a4 and a2 where the queen can operate. So the queen is stuck on the 2nd rank. If the queen goes to b2, just queen b7, right? Black controls the game. And this could have been a different result, yeah, if Nakamura played knight takes c3. But he went for knight f4. He was too optimistic, maybe, of the position. But true to his style, that's his character, by the way. He doesn't care. But I think he missed this queen a2. Now, after Levon played queen a2, Nakamura spent a lot of time. Well, the main point here is queen a5 check. If you capture the bishop, for example, there's queen a5 check, right? King has to go where? c8 or d7. Okay, c8 without check. Queen takes b5, hitting the bishop on f5, hitting the pawn on c4, hitting the rook on e8. Oh my god, multiple threats. You put that bishop on d7, queen a6 check. Where do you go from here? You cannot play queen b7, there's take, yes, and take on e4. OMG. Okay, the king probably goes back to d8, but queen a5 once again. You go back to c8, takes on c4. Play takes on e4. Rook takes e4, queen c5 check. King has to go back to d8, queen f8 check. The rook has to go back to e8, queen takes f6, right? And then takes knight on f4, no mate on g2. White is winning. Nakamura probably was hoping for that attack on h4, and probably was hoping for bishop g3, and he goes for knight d3, improving his position of the knight. But even here in this position, white is still better with rook eb1. So knight d takes c3 with chances for both sides. Or maybe even black is better here. We never know. This is just a very oh my god, I don't know how to call this position. Even I have a headache watching this. Yeah, you don't understand where is it going, where is it heading. There's too much imbalances for both sides, which is nice. We like to watch games like this. It's fun to watch. Okay, b4. The good thing about this is that they just fight. Yeah. They don't even care about the result. And that's what we are looking for. Fight. Okay, so knight f4, queen a2. Now it is winning for white. Nakamura went for queen b7. Queen takes a7. Although Levon could have played queen a5 check first. If Nakamura plays queen b6, you take rook a8 check. This could have been simpler, I guess. Rook takes e8. Yeah. Simple win compared to what happened in the game. And if the queen, let's say, moves to c8, for example, bishop g3, yeah. Hard for black to find a move here. If you go d3, rook eb1, it's attacking b5, a6 not possible, this queen takes, dark square bishop, pin here, king is unsafe. Okay, queen takes a7, he simplifies, takes, rook e6. Black survives a little bit, takes an e4, simplification. f3, nice move. Clearing the way for the bishop, protecting e1. Rook e2, Nakamura is still very resourceful there. He is losing, but he's not giving up. A good lesson as well. Let your opponent work hard for his point. Bishop f2, b4. Pass pawn. Take c3. Alright. Looks dangerous on c3. Now 2 steps from promotion. Rook takes e2. Knight takes e2. King h1. The king has to move all over to h1. If the king moves to f1, for example, here, then c2. Bishop e3. c1. I think it was also possible. Takes c1, knight takes c1. Alright. So king h1, c2, bishop into e3. Promote rook or queen, doesn't matter. Takes. 2 minor pieces for the rook, but extra 2 pawns for white. Last pawn must be pushed. 1, 2, 3. Okay. King c8, b6. 2 more steps. King into b8, the other pawn. Knight d3, g4, tempo. Bishop c8, rook f7, hitting f6. Bishop a6, Nakamura is not surrendering, he fights, takes. King goes to b7, king g1. Maybe not the best. I think here d6 is already possible, yeah? Because if you capture the pawn, there's d7 and you hit the bishop. If, let's say, the knight goes back to c5, it does rook f5, yeah. Knight goes to e6, d7. Keep pushing. You can play rook takes g5. I think it's easier. But anyways, it doesn't change the result. King g1, bishop e5, rook f5. Knight f4, h4, hitting the defender of the knight on f4. Bishop into d3, rook f6, bishop b1, takes on g5, 5 pawns against 1. So rook n5, that's 10. Bishop, knight, and pawn, that's only 7. So it's a piece up for white, a minor piece up for white. Knight takes e5, rook f8, knight takes b6. Okay, well now it's just 1 pawn up. f4, pass pawn must be pushed. King c6, king f2. Bring the king in the endgame, bring the king into the game. Knight into d7, rook f. Easier was rook g8. Yes, no complications. Because if Nakamura plays knight c5 here, now you can push f5. Yeah, because the rook protects that important g5 pawn. It could have ended much faster than what happened. Because with rook f7, knight c5, you cannot push f5. There's knight e4 check and knight takes g5, yeah? So king g3, bishop g6, f8 back, knight into e6, rook g8, king d6, rook into a8, bishop b1, rook a1. White just needs to push this pawn and it's game over. But there's knight takes g5, so he needs the timing. Yeah. Rook d1, should d5, rook d2, nice move. This will be hitting rook h2. Right, for example here, let's take a look at king c5. We have rook h2, the bishop protects, yes, f5. The knight takes, we have king f4, no h6 because of the rook on h2. That was the main point. Okay, so knight c7, king h4, nice move. At e6, finally f5. The king protects g5. As I've said, once the pawn is pushed on f5, it's game over. Knight into c5, king h5. King into the game. King e5, just king h6. Right. At e4, good move, rook b2. To c4, rook to b4. If the king goes closer to the pawn on g4, that's rook b4. If you take that pawn, rook d4. If you take this pawn on f5, rook takes d5 check. King goes to e6, just rook d4. Right? If king protects the knight, you take that knight, takes, and king takes. You don't need to be greedy. One pawn is enough to win the game. Let's go back. Rook b2, king c4, rook b4, bishop into d3. Nice. Rook takes e4. The bishop can stop the 3 pawns. King takes h7. Even if the king is near the pawns, there's king h. Right. And here Nakamura resigned because if king takes g4, just push that pawn in f6. You go bishop d5, the other pawn push, f7, promote. All right. That was a crazy game by both players. And Aronian has his revenge because Nakamura won the finals in Berlin. Same, Berlin in leg number 1. Leg 2 was in Belgrade, and they're back to Berlin now. And that was a good start. It was a good start with fireworks on the board. And it was really nice to watch games like this. This is what we are looking for, all right? And we are hoping that we will see more of this in the days to come. All right, guys, thank you for watching our video for today. Thank you for supporting our channel, Charles Max Chess and Charles Max Entertainment on Facebook and on YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.